good, good, good. Summertime, Knicks time, you know what it is. Hope everybody's having a very good summer so far. Yeah, we had a little summer league action come along, obviously. A little bit of a financial discount given by a certain Knicks star. We're going to get into all that in a few minutes. But hey, I just wanted to bring on, that dude, that upstate dude, Big Cuff, as I like to call him. Let's bring in somebody with the magical touch. My boy. Oops, maybe we'll get him in. There we go. Upstate Joe. What's good, brother? What's good? What's good? Summertime. Fun time. What's good?
Greetings from upstate, man.
Nice. How's your summer going so far?
It's going a lot better now that I've got my arm out of that brace. I'm in week 7 of recuperation from my rotator cuff. I'm feeling really good.
Nice.
And very excited. Pretty soon I'll be posting people on the block and working on my drop step.
Man, well, you know what? Let me tell you, you might have some employment in the garden. Clearly, we know what time it is. We definitely need someone who can, give them a little something in the middle. You might be the right height requirement too. So, what are you, 6'5"?
I'm about 6'7", but I might be shrinking now that I'm older. But once I was Joey drop step.
Oh, see, legends are being born every day. Tell them about the legend, man.
Man, I was real good from 4 feet out.
Well, look, Tom Thibodeau's probably going to play a small lineup. We know you might be a small ball 5. You know he's itching for it because we know what time it is. He's going to say, "Oh, we got enough. I like our guys." Joe, you might get a job there.
He might actually like me because I'm real good at giving like 6 hard fouls in like 3 minutes. I like to set a tone.
It's Garden legend. That's what the legend. That's all Oakley did. What did Oakley do? Beat up people that didn't pay him for their bets and slammed a few heads when they came into the middle of the lane. That's all you need to do. Legend and no time. Now they may kick you out of the Garden at some point with the facial recognition. So do know that might happen to you. Oh man! But look, you know what? It's summertime.
How are you doing, though?
What's that?
How are you doing?
I can't complain. I always tell people I have no rabbis, so I don't complain to no one about anything. Nobody wants to listen to a grown man cry unless it's on an R&B song. So nobody wants to hear anything about me. So. But hey, it is what it is. But I am doing good. Thank you for asking. Everything's well. I'm healthy and alive. I always say when I'm vertical, it's a pretty damn good day. So
yes,
I don't do too much of the complaining thing. That's for sure. Well, we've had obviously a little bit of time in between the shows. Eric's somewhere being James Bond. He's always on these secret side missions now. We don't know where he is. He's in incognito, not Negro. That's what I'm usually. I'm incognito. He's incognito. So, but shout out to Big E, my light-skinned brother from another mother.
I think he's probably doing like scout work in like Moldova or like Estonia or something like that.
So, yeah, he seems like the type. He seems like one of those types you just got to watch out for because you never know quite what he's up to, but he's up to something.
He knows a little too much about the Euros not to be like actively involved, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, he probably got one of those international passports, You open up his briefcase, there's a couple different identities in there. I'm more sure this is a little stash house.
With his burn bag.
Hey, anything's possible. We all live a double life once in a while. You know how that is. Mm-hmm. Well, let's start talking a little bit about our Knicks. I know they didn't want to hear about our personal crap too much, but I don't know if you had a chance to check out Summer League, but that was one of the bigger things that have been going on as far as the Knicks. But I wanted to enter into this one thing which really struck, I think it took the league and maybe even more so the sports league in general by storm. And just wanted to touch a little bit because we didn't have a show about Jalen Brunson taking what is definitely, I call it the discount double check. I mean, I don't know if Steve Novak was talking about that, nor Aaron Rodgers, but I can definitely tell you that this was beyond a discount double check. When we visit Jalen Brunson, doing maybe the Knicks the greatest favor we've ever seen from any any player in a Knicks uniform, and maybe we might have to go league wide when thinking about this is a trend that you will never see happen any other time. This is definitely an anomaly where you saw a player decide that he wanted to take less for the betterment of winning, and that less happened to be $113 million damn dollars. Look, I love the Knicks. I know you love the Knicks. I know the Knicks fan base loves them some Knicks. We know this. Some of us say we bleed orange and blue. We hear all that stuff. But do we really bleed $113 million worth of orange and blue? I don't think no Knicks fan nor no Knicks player has ever bled that much. In fact, I don't even think Dolan would bleed. Dolan probably said, well, what the hell is going on? I can't believe this guy decided that he's going to take a coupon and give us a little discount, a hometown discount of a greater magnitude than we've ever seen from any athlete, especially in a Knicks uniform and especially with the modern day player. You rarely see these things occur, especially in the NBA. Usually these guys are for their max dollars. The contracts are set up that way. Even when you're not great, you still want to be paid like you're great. Just seeing this with Jalen Brunson and it's $113 million, I know it took everybody by a storm. Some people obviously didn't agree with it. They maybe found it to be a little bit foolish. But then there's those who found this to be one of the more honorable moves. I mean, how much money is enough money? We can ask that question. And for some people that agree, they tell you there's never enough. But in the case of Jalen Brunson, clearly he had a number that he was okay with. And he said, you can subtract that $113 million for now. Just go out and get me a team that can win. So I just want to get your thoughts when first hearing the news, and then secondly, what is your opinion of whether or not this really helps the Knicks out?
Well, it definitely helps the Knicks out. I mean, obviously. But I think what you have right now is what those in statistics call an outlier situation. I think, to tell you the truth, if he did not have, three of his college teammates that he was, that he won two titles with, I don't think that would happen if he had some ramshackle squad that he threw together. You're looking at a very, very specific situation of pulling four guys together that won two titles together. And the Knicks have gone out, they got Brunson first, and they went out and they got their guys, and they spent, and they sent draft picks and all of that stuff. And things seem to fit together with the cap right now as it stands. I mean, Mikal Bridges, people talk about the 5 draft picks that we sent over, but do you realize the contract he's on, and that it wasn't really possible for us to get a $50 million player or that superstar because we would have had to get rid of somebody to get to that second area. And it probably would have been somebody like a Josh Hart, somebody that was making that kind of money. So, the cap is set up. These guys are signed for years. He had the opportunity to keep his boys together and keep the crew together. I think that is really kind of the driver for him. I don't think if he had that much blood going into this, I don't think he would have made those level of sacrifices. On the other side right now, with the style of game that he has, it gives him security. It absolutely does. And with the people involved, with the relationship he has with Thibodeau and Rose, and I'm sure Dolan loves this guy because he basically CPR'd his entire franchise back to life. They're going to make good with him at some point. They'll make good with him at some point. Now, granted, it'll also be when the cap goes up, but he will get some kind of balloon payment on this. I do believe that. But this is still an unprecedented thing. You hear what reporters are writing and what other athletes are saying, and that this is just left field for most people. If you remember, those of you Knicks fans that are more than 12, 13 years old, if you remember Carmelo Anthony, wanted to come to New York, but he wanted to maximize his earnings, which caused us trading 3/4 of our team for him. And you know what that goes. We never were able to build a team around him. We were never able to win with him. And I think he left $5 million on the table for a 5-year contract, just as a token. Yeah, I'm helping the team out, but that team was locked up like this. And I think that there was a lesson in there. And I think with the current financial realities in the NBA, we can't play what Golden State has been doing and just send me the luxury tax. Send me the luxury tax, I'll pay it. Get me the players, get me the talent, I'll pay the luxury tax payment. You can't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he looked at the landscape right now, looked at a situation where he has family and blood in here and said, you know what? I have the security. I've already made money.
Mm-hmm.
I want to win. I want to keep my boys here. Let's do this. So, I mean, in a way, I'm not surprised, but I mean, I love him for it. I really do. It's not something that the modern athlete does ever.
No.
You know, look at Paul George. I mean, he has roots in L.A. LA, you know, I'm from there, this and that.
Yep.
When it came down to it, it was all the way across to Philadelphia, which is very different from LA. I don't know if you guys have been in Philadelphia or LA. I would rather live in LA than Philadelphia. I'll tell you that right now. But he packed his bags and he moved over to to Philadelphia. So, you know, I give him a lot of credit. I'm really excited about what this team has going on right now. It's just really an exciting time, and I can't really say enough about the guy because it's unheard of.
Absolutely. I think I said it actually on our post one day, and funny enough, Josh Hart has said the same thing. He says build him a statue because that's exactly what he's leaning towards getting way before he retires as a statue. Because I think the sacrifices that New York Knicks fans have been waiting for is to find us a couple things: to have an athlete that's willing to pour everything into playing for the betterment of winning. That's one of the things we wanted. We all obviously wanted the talent to be there. Carmelo Anthony was a talent. We know about that. You know, he's one of the best individual scorers we've ever seen in the game. You know, just a dead-eye shooter, dead-eye clutch person. I mean, he had all the accolades. But, you know, the one knock is much like you said with Carmelo was the fact that he kind of rubbed people the wrong way, how he came in. You know, not that it was of his fault. It literally was Dolan's fault. You know, he wanted his money. That was the first thing. And then he was unwilling to make any sacrifices as far as how he came in. He wasn't willing to wait another year for what was believed to be at the time. You know, he didn't know how I think it was the CBA, how it was going to work and all this other stuff. Blah, 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 blah. And I think a lot of Knicks fans at one point felt like they gave up too much for him. I don't think it was from a talent perspective as much as it was an asset perspective where people were like, well, what is your next move? You're now stuck with a guy like Melo, guy like Amari, and you then had Chauncey Billups. We all know how that all played out.
Yeah.
Got Chauncey, the amnesty Chauncey. And it kind of made the limitation of that team. You know, it did evolve into being something a little bit better. It became a second-round contender. Lost to Indiana. We know the whole trips and drabs of that. But we always go back to the same thought is that what if we were able to get a Chris Paul, you know, who wanted to come here, blah, 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 blah. The thing that we've always had an issue with in New York is pairing two stars together or two like talents together that can make you compete at a high level. I think when Jalen Brunson decided to say, hey, look, I got all these guys around here that I love. They're like my brothers. And we know what's coming down the pike is that we are going to now have these restrictions on these aprons and et cetera. We may be very good, but we may not have the ability to be great on a championship level if we're not able to be able to maneuver around. And we have some of the best, obviously, we might have the best front office right now when it comes to, you know, dipping and dabbing. I mean, they figure out ways of getting the right talent for the right price. You know, and we are at a competitive championship level window right now. I think he wants to keep that. And I think for Knicks fans, they're going to definitely find him to be the most appealing star we've had.
Oh, definitely.
Because Ewing wasn't loved. He was somewhat liked at times. There were fans.
I loved Ewing.
You loved Ewing. And some do. But for a lot of people, they, you know, I think because he was a malcontent, you know, he wasn't one of those people. He wasn't very personable. That came off a lot. Like you see him now joke more. I just think for the fan base, when you're not winning big, you know, somebody named Michael Jordan happened to be playing. I mean, we do want to account for that, but needless to say, you know, he kind of got a bad rap because of, you know, he wasn't the media darling. A guy like Brunson came in and did a lot of homework, you know, and I'm on the show having his father on the staff. Having been a Knick at one point, I think he did his complete homework about what it was going to be like to come here, what it would take to ingratiate the fan base, how to conduct itself as a star in this market. And now he's saying, well, I'm going to take it a step further. Not only am I going out here and maybe could win you a title, I'm going to make sure that you really submit me as one of the greatest players to ever come to New York as an athlete, because I'm going to now say I'm giving back. I'm not a greedy athlete in New York. Wow. When are we, aren't they still paying Bobby Bonilla money over with the Mets? When have we seen any athlete come here and say, take less, do more with what I could be getting? I know I'm paid enough, but I want to win something big for this franchise that's been obviously devoid of one for 51 years now. So
if he wins one, he's going to be a god.
God. Absolute God.
If he wins two, forget about it.
Yeah, the one alone might kill all of us anyway. So we won't be around for the second one. It's going to kill every Knicks fan. Because trust, you watched it like for the last couple of years. We were talking about the Miami series, and I said I thought that was the window they might have had their shot. And you were one of the few people I heard rebuff that and say, no, I think they can go again next year. And you picked 50. You were one on record to pick 50. Now you're looking at it, and we have a belief now. Yeah. This is the first time, I think, as a Knicks fan, that we are looking at programming.
That's a great programming to get out of that thought.
Yes, and now we are. I know I want to jinx it, but I don't even think it's just jinx. I just think it's skills at this point. We're a legitimate contender for an NBA title for the first time in my years of watching the Knicks. And I know Ewing was great. I know Melo was a very good player. I never believed in. I'm not the biggest Melo fan, but I just didn't believe that he would ever get us where we need to go. Not him and Stoudemire. I didn't think it was an ideal pairing. But when looking at this team, we are definitely a 5-man short, but we are a lot of man deep as far as saying that we can actually win a title with the squad we do have. Some things need to break, obviously, for luck. That's usually how it does for every team that wins a title. But in the same sense, this is the best New York Knicks team I've seen in a very long time. A great leader, a great definitive lead on the squad.
I still think there is the possibility for this roster to improve.
Yeah, it is.
And I am confident in this front office. I am as confident in this front office as I have ever been with any front office in all the years I've been a Knicks fan.
Yes.
For them to pull some magic out and to, improve at the center spot, bring someone in, sign and trade them, re-sign them, and just blow up the second apron and know that you're going for it anyway and it doesn't matter necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
I could see them doing something like that. But, for me, it was really the Bridges and the Anunoby moves that really brought confidence. I just think that both of those moves have their naysayers, but I don't see it, man. I think both of those moves are worth it, what we paid for it. We are set up to give people fits from a defensive standpoint. We have good secondary scoring options, and we have a great primary scoring option. You look around, and yes, every team is going to have weaknesses, but you got to know that all of these teams in the NBA that are going to be navigating this second apron are going to lose pieces along the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not everybody is set up from a contract perspective the way that we are. I'm hearing rumors that Bridges is also talking about taking a friendly deal. I've seen multiple articles talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
You have what's good right now locked down for like 4 years. I mean, this team is there, So it's exciting, man. You think, Ty, we've been messaging on boards and stuff like that since 2009, and we've never seen a team like this. Never seen a team like this.
Never, ever. And I think that's the excitement, because it was funny when we were, when the admins are now the thread or whatever, this is before you had joined the show, we were talking about Brunson. That was one of the biggest things that, it was a peculiar thought at first. It was like, maybe he's not as good. And then you started seeing it. It's just the problem that we have as Knicks fans, the abuse over the years that we don't want to buy what we see sometimes. Like, is it really good? Is it legit? But you started seeing the things with Brunson, and I was one of the people, and they would tell you that I said, I think we got somebody. But it's hard to sometimes overcome the thought of it because you're looking like he doesn't look, which Thibodeau says, he doesn't look the part. You wouldn't think him to be the guy. But lo and behold, when I saw how he was starting to play and how he evolved, I'm like, we got one. We got a guy. Now, the question was whether they were able to build around the guy because we know how that's worked.
No.
To see what they've done, man, sans Julius, who was always here, respect to him, but just the ancillary pieces they put around Brunson, like his friends that can actually ball.
Yeah. Then
you go out and you get two of the most dynamic defending wings in a league that you need those wings. The Knicks may have 1 and 1A as far as the top 3 and D wings in the league. And you're putting that against a pit bull guy like Brunson and a guy like Julius, if he's healthy enough and his mind is right to play within the team system, if he can have a January for 5 years.
If his mind isn't right this year, it's never going to be.
It's never going to be right. It's never going to be right. I'm holding out the thought that Julius that we saw in January is going to be the Julius we see moving forward.
So.
I'm starting to believe. I'm starting to drink a little bit of the sweet Kool-Aid with all the sugar in it. I think that he's going to have to buy in because when you look at where his team is at, and I've heard him on his different podcasts speak about how he knows now he has to fit in, and he felt like he was left out, and now it's like, I know he's thinking they don't need me, but I think it's going to be him trying to prove that you don't need me, but I want to be here, and I think I can help you guys get us all where we want to be, which is title holders. So it's just it's a fantastic time to be a Knicks fan. I tell everyone to enjoy it, take a picture, write it down. You're not going to damn well see it no time ever again, probably in your lifetime. So really cherish what you're watching the Knicks do because they are in a very good position.
Something I want to add on what you just mentioned about Julius. I remember in the beginning of the season when I first started hosting the show with you guys, co-hosting the show with you guys, I said I believe that Julius Randle was going to have his best season as a Knick this year. And a lot of that had to do with the establishment of Brunson. Mm-hmm. And I think with all of the talent that has been brought on, I think that you're going to see, if he's healthy, an even more effective Julius Randle. Julius Randle is not a primary option. That's why he got destroyed and he was ineffective in that Atlanta series because there was nobody else. Mm-hmm. I think that he is a great supplementary player, like we were talking about Mikal Bridges. And I think that the defenses are not going to not be able to key on him. And I think he's going to eat. And I think he's going to eat a lot. It's funny. I really feel what you're talking about that kind of learned Knick negativity from just the disappointment and the anger and the shame and everything that goes along with being a Knick fan historically for as long as we've been Knick fans. Mm-hmm. When the negativity started to change with me? I remember when the Josh Hart trade came and I tore the Josh Hart trade apart. It apart.
Yeah, I recall.
Was really negative about the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And that really, really worked out. And I was sitting there thinking, you know what? After seeing the impact they had, I was like, they got him for peanuts, man. Like nothing. Yeah. And that was a really slick move. That's the kind of move that winning front offices make. And going into the next year, I was never a big RJ Quickly fan. But the moves that have come, I have more faith that they know what they're doing. The guys that they're drafting, I have more faith that they know what they're doing. And it really is kind of this paradigm shift that happens.
Big time.
And you were the first person to come on Brunson, but I was a late arriver on Brunson. And regardless of what I see, I think Erica took a little while too.
Oh, yeah, it did.
On the Brunson boat. But, Knicks fans were always waiting for that star. We want that star, all of that. Brunson is a first-team All-NBA player, but he's not a star in that same way that Melo is a star. We don't have those. It turns out the team that we wanted is the antithesis of everything that we thought that Knicks fans thought that we needed.
Yep, big time.
This is the opposite of that.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a million reasons why it's working. And you could see kind of the NBA changing a little bit to we need to build a super team like what Miami is. And now it's more like we need to get a couple of guys that we believe in because it's going to take up most of our cap. And they have to be the right guys. And we need the right supplemental parts feeding that.
Mm-hmm. Big time.
We need one or two guys and we need to build around that. So the NBA is changing.
Big time.
It's changing a lot.
Well, it's good you brought that up because I just added a little bit of something to the show because I wasn't going to make this a subject, but we're talking about Scott Perry. He actually went on a podcast recently. I forgot the name of the podcast. Charges in my brain. But needless to say, he brought up how this Knicks squad, he compared it to his Detroit Pistons squad, where they did not have a definitive star quality guy. He wasn't a big box office person. He spoke about how Chauncey Billups coming to the Pistons, that happened to be his 16th when he came to the Pistons, which is crazy enough. And he was talking about the trade that brought, Ben Wallace to the Pistons. He talked about the trade that brought Rip Hamilton to the Pistons. It was just a great hodgepodge. They drafted Tayshaun
Prince.
Yeah, so you've had, and then, the trade that set him off was Rasheed Wallace coming.
Yeah.
So when you look at the dynamic of that team, and I do believe that Pistons team is a lot tougher. They were just some grizzly dogs. I don't think you can have a guy like Rasheed and a guy like Ben Wallace, and you can't put our front court and say, oh, those guys are like those. I'm never going to disrespect them in that manner. But I got where Perry was coming from, the design and how this team has been collectively put together, and a lot of the depth. And then you look at a guy like Billups, who was underwhelming. He was a third pick, I think, in the year he came out, or fourth.
Yeah,
Clarkson, and he got moved around quite a bit before landing in Detroit. And he goes there and he cut his teeth, and he actually became known as Mr. Big Shot. That's what he ends up becoming. Great floor leader. Obviously, he's one guy that I wish the Knicks had actually kept. I wish they did not amnesty him. That would have been great. Because he was always a leader of men on the floor. And those were some grizzled men that he had to lead in Detroit. When you look at a team like, I should say a player like Jalen Brunson, he kind of fits that outcasted role, except he's a way better scorer than Billups. Being a better defender, maybe the better floor manager. I don't want to say he was like a passing savant, but he was more pass first and shoot first. And Brunson's a scorer. We know it. He's a dynamic scorer. I have no problem with him letting him score as much as he wants to. But however, when you look at that team, the Pistons, if you were going to design a championship team, it would have never looked like the Pistons. It would have looked more like maybe the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq, or you have the dynamic duo. But when looking at this, and Perry bringing up that point, we look at the New York Knicks, and they got a lot of those pieces, like Detroit, a lot of that talent, a lot of that depth. They have an identity. They have defense. Putting those two wing guys, Anunoby and Bridges, they do become the wing aspect of what Ben Wallace and Rasheed offered. As far as they're so dynamic, they may shut your whole damn team down if you're trying to score on them. So they give Brunson, when you look at how the Detroit Pistons were built and you look at how this Knicks team is built, a lot of similarities, a lot of and hopefully the same aspirations. They can win a title doing it this way.
And I think they had a lot of interior defense on those Pistons where it was just perimeter defense, because we also talk about Anunoby and Mikal Bridges so much that we forget the other perimeter defenders that we have coming off the bench, and Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo, who are also excellent perimeter defenders.
And Deuce
McBride, thank you. We have a lot of plus defenders. I will say this one thing, that we don't really look at Brunson as a point guard. I'm going to make a prediction right now that he has by far his highest assist total of his entire career, because he's going to be surrounded by shooters.
I agree with that.
He is going to be kicking it out to them, and they're going to be draining threes. Defense is going to collapse on him, and the second they do, he's going to make them pay, and which is going to open the paint for him.
Oh, yeah. See, me and you talking the same language. It's not even hard math. When you're a guy that receives a double and a triple team, and all of a sudden they free you up. Now all of a sudden you're just throwing darts. You're practicing at that point because now you have to single coverage a guy who's basically not a guy you can single coverage.
No.
And
it's because 5 players that are shooting above 39% from three.
It's a beautiful thing to be a New York Knicks fan right now.
It's crazy.
If you're not excited about the Knicks after looking at what we did last season, looking at the additions that have come along, we know the subtractions that have happened, as far as at the 5 position, we understand that dynamic. However, we're wishing great things for Mitchell Robinson from a health perspective. That's really our thought pattern. We'll talk a little bit about that moving forward. But, when you look at the other pieces and the guy that we got here who's the lead dog, and you got the second dog in Julius Randle, man, they both have to be distributors. That's really what they have to be.
Yeah.
They score when you are able, if they're not gonna double you, then you torch them.
Yeah.
If they double you, then you torch them a different way. You spray the ball, and both guys are capable passers. They can definitely do it.
And think about what kind of command offensively you have off of the half court when you have people that could score in the paint like Brunson and Randall, and then you surround them with the perimeter shooters. How do you defend that?
They're done.
Seriously, how do you defend that?
Look,
we're going to take a hit defensively, I think, with Hartenstein gone. We're not going to be quite as good of an interior. We're not going to protect the paint as well. Our offensive rebounding is going to take a hit, but offensively, we are going to take a big step forward.
That's why when we did our power rankings, that's why I had the Knicks at 3. I'm at 3, and I'm going on giving Boston respect. And the second respect was to OKC because they did make great improvements.
We got the top of the same.
So it's because that is some legit problems that we have to give other teams. When you think about what we lacked last season, because technically what happened with the Knicks, if you look at what the injury perspective, from an injury perspective, the Knicks were without talent, and they got to the second seed in the Eastern Conference. So basically, you went out and acquired talent because your guys got healthy. So guys that couldn't contribute, and then you said, "Oh, by the way, let me go ahead." A guy who was almost Defensive Player of the Year, a guy who had his team been successful in the finals, probably would have been MVP because Mikal was balling in the finals against Milwaukee. Like, let's just go add that guy. People poo-poo at that, like, like you said earlier about it, we gave him picks, but do you know who Mikal Bridges is and what Mikal Bridges being a third option or fourth option at times? Are you serious? Why would you think that your team is not great when that guy might be your third or fourth option at times?
I was reading something recently that made a lot of sense with this. Like, we're going to see Phoenix Mikal back. I think what happened last year was an anomaly. But essentially, the 25 and the 27 picks are going to be trash. They are.
They are.
What we gave them basically was 28, 27. The swap in 28th where we'll get whoever's picks, so we'll have something at least from that.
Yeah.
We gave them 29 and 31.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
That's really what we gave them.
That's really what it is.
Because, nothing for nothing. I would rather have, pick 45 than the last pick of the first round or the last couple of picks of the first round, personally. Yeah,
because when you think along the lines of, I brought this up. I'm going to transition a little bit now on that, actually.
You have to pay those late first round picks real dollars on the cap.
Big time.
There are benefits to having second round picks sitting there.
Absolutely. I'm going to transition a little bit in that because we're talking about talent. This is one of my things that I was talking to the guys about earlier in the week. It was like, we sometimes got to take a step back as Knicks fans and then get the proper perspective on certain things. When we look at what happened in this past draft, and I'm going to the New York Knicks Summer League squad, because most of those guys are playing outside of I can't think of the guy's name because he has not played, but the kid from Kansas. He's the only one that didn't participate because he had an ankle injury. But needless to say, the Knicks did themselves a favor in this draft because we're talking about those picks that you were saying would have been late draft picks that we gave up initially to Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. Well, these guys became like your future draft picks is really what they ended up becoming because the Knicks said, well, we're not going to be able to draft in 2 more drafts, but let us load up right now in this draft with the kind of players that we would probably have picked in the next 2 or 3 drafts anyway, because we want late round first or second round players that don't count against the cap. They won't cost as much. Now all of a sudden, those picks that went to Brooklyn, that becomes their financial issues and not the Knicks. But what the Knicks did do was they picked up some quality guys for the future rounds. And that's what we're seeing now when we think about the Summer League squad. You know, you got to think about guys like this one kid who is Pacome Dadier. I think I'm saying his name right. You had a kid that came into a little bit raw, you know. Some of Pacome Dadier, one of the picks that the Knicks had during their Summer League time. You know, he got some play. Didn't shoot the ball particularly great. But however, what he did do was provide us with at least a little bit of a floor plan as to what he can be. What we can see from him in the future. We're looking for a kid that's going to grow into something, and the base talent is there. We see them in the movement. The defense was the one thing that surprised me the most when watching him play. Like there were just certain shots he just missed. It wasn't because of the defense. He missed those shots. His legs are not quite there. The strength is not there. The conditioning probably not up to par. But when you look at how he defended against guys, I mean, he was up in them like a thumb. I mean, let me just tell you exactly what it is. His on-ball defense was incredible for a young kid who's what is he, 18, turning 19. You know, you've got something there to work with if you're the Knicks. You know, what they've done is that they've had the ability to draft within one draft at least 4 guys that could potentially be your future picks that would have been gone. And, you know, if you did 25 and 26 picks or whatever from Brooklyn, they're going to be in the 20 or late 20 range. So, you know, the Knicks plan on winning a title, so you're not going to be a lottery team. By default, like all the Knicks would have to injure themselves to become a lottery team because your 1 through 4 players are capable of carrying a team right now to a degree. Well, I should say 1 to 3. When you go through McCallum carried the Nets, we've obviously know what Julius can do. He's carried the Knicks before Brunson got here, and now you have Brunson. We even saw Josh Hart during the playoffs carry the Knicks. So the depth is there. So you're not going to ever be a lottery team. So get that out of your mind when you talk about picks. Like, oh, we gave away picks. You're going to be good for the next 5 to 7 years. That's really
29 and 31, like I said.
29 and 31. Now, these guys that you're seeing, I brought up Pacome Dadier. You got Ariel Haporti. He was like the last pick of the draft. Decent center. You know, he didn't wow me, but then I see some of the highlights. I told Eric one of these things about him. I said, he's like one of those guys that you sometimes watch him and you go, he might be a third stringer, but then there's moments you're like, he could be a real backup. So, you know, it's something there to work with. It's not a finished rock, you know, it still needs some polishing. But guys like him, Pacome Dadier, you know, they showed a lot of promise. This guy was one of Eric's favorite people. Scat. Eric loves him Euro. So he's actually been on so he's not a drafted player.
He's in Westchester last year.
Yeah, he's in Westchester. Came in and gave him good minutes. You know, he had some solid outings during Summer League. You know, will he be
against Detroit? He had a really good game against Detroit.
Really good game. So it's like, you know, this guy could literally be an answer down the line for whether you lose a Jericho Sims or you lose a Mitchell Robinson or you need a third stringer. This guy is very capable of being a contributor on this team. So once again, you went down the line, the Knicks, and we didn't even see the other kid, like I said, from Kansas. But you have at least 3 solid guys that you could say, let me see what happens down the line. And these are just not even the best player. And when we talk about even the draft picks that we're talking about, because this guy is probably the guy that is most talked about, which is Tyler Coleman. This dude. You think the Knicks are in bad shape? The Knicks know what the hell they're doing. Their front office knows what they're doing. Tyler Coleman averaged 11 points, 7 assists, and 4 bounds during summer league. This is your 34th, 35th pick, who probably is a late first rounder, maybe even higher. If somebody really did their homework, he probably would have went higher in the 20s, maybe right outside the skirt of the actual lottery in itself. Tyler Kolek, I mean, the dude can pass and he can ball. I don't know if you got a chance, but what was your thoughts after, if you did get a chance to watch him during the summer league, what was your take from watching Tyler Kolek?
Well, I'm going to skip back and talk about some of the other guys that you mentioned first a little bit. Dadier, I think you're really 100% off. I don't think his legs are there. I don't think he had the lift on his jump shot, which is why he kept falling short. Mm-hmm. You like the hustle. You like the defense. And like I had said, after the draft show, this is a guy that if he continues to grow with the skill set that he has, you're looking at a completely different player. Hakordi, again, mobile, does a lot of things that you like. He was workmanlike, I think is the best way I could put it, in every single game that he was in. He was very consistent and productive in the minutes that he was in. Skipinstev, excuse me, I always screw up his name a little bit. I'm a little about my
but go on, you're good.
Yeah, he looked skilled, but like you said, he looked like the guy that looks forward to going to church. He didn't have any mean in him, I think, is the way that you put it. Mm-hmm. Tyler Kolek, the thing that I saw the best about him, his shot didn't fall the way he kind of wanted to. He looked like a leader. He was someone that ran the offense, and he's someone that made it go. And the shot's going to fall eventually. That's what I noticed about him. The other guy that you were mentioning right now, the kid out of Kansas, is Kevin McCullough Jr. Mm-hmm. He was somebody that a lot of people thought should have been in the first round as well, and he fell down into the 50s. Mm-hmm. So there's a shift going on with the Knicks. I mean, we were never able to develop talent, but we are suddenly becoming an organization that can develop talent. Nothing for nothing. Quickly, as much as I am not really a huge fan, is the player he is today because of the developmental assistance that he got from the coaching staff at the Knicks. He came out of there a much better player than he came in. The same thing with Deuce McBride. He has grown tremendously in the system. So we have the pipeline set. And these are appropriate talents for this because we're not looking for starters. We're not looking for somebody in the rotation even. We're looking for bench guys. We're looking to develop solid bench guys at key positions on the wing, point guard, and center right now.
Yeah.
And these guys most of them are young. Kolek's a little bit older, but he'll see more play than he had. McCullough's older too, but these are guys that may see a little bit more action. They have the pipeline there. Each one of these guys has a skill set that can be refined.
Yes.
They have things that they can add to their game, things that they can learn, and you might see them crack into the rotations, like quickly cracked into the rotation, like Jericho Sims has at times, like Miles McBride did. That's the level of people that we're trying to pull up. We're trying to find the next Miles McBride. And, again, I have faith in the front office.
Big time. Big time. When I looked at all those guys as they played, I didn't catch every game. I wish I had a chance to, but obviously they don't repeat them. And then the time slots that they played is like, okay.
Yeah, that time at 3:30 in the afternoon.
So, but when looking at those guys, there's a nice balance of, well, I should say they got good roots. When you look at how their base talent is solid, it's something that you can definitely work. And these guys, we have similar talents that are veterans on this team. That's the key thing for me is like when you look at, they have the best guys to play behind to actually learn from. You got two guys like
McCullough. Good culture now.
Yeah, the culture's there.
Yeah.
The Knicks definitely, finally, I feel like The Rock, finally they got some damn culture in New York where you can start to see some of those guys, the McCullers, You know, you can see the Pacome Dadiers. You can see those guys. They are wings. Mm-hmm. Imagine who you're learning behind. You're learning behind Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby.
And Hart.
I mean, with
Hart DiVincenzo.
And Hart and DiVincenzo. These are the guys that's in your locker room now. When you're telling these young guys, you know, hop on board. You got a guy like Kolek who, when was compared to by a lot of people to T.J. McCollum, and he was pissed off. He said that I'm not. He was respectful, but he's like, you got it wrong. You got it twisted. I'm more Brunson-like. Brunson.
He calls it a lazy comparison.
Yeah, you know, he was pissed off about it. I love hearing that. He's like the bird. Don't put a white guy on me. You know, it's like you gotta go to that guy and make him me. I don't think so, but it's refreshing to hear the competitiveness and to hear that he also liked watching Jalen Brunson play. So you're getting a lot of redundancy in a good way because it's saying that this is the type of basketball that's going to be played in New York moving forward. I think there was news. I don't know quite. I thought I read somewhere where I think Thibodeau may have gotten an extension. I don't know if it happened.
I heard that, but I haven't heard numbers.
I heard yeah. But they said it might be a 3-year
3-year extension.
3 years. I know the 3 years I heard about, but that's saying what's going to be happening in the next 3 years. He's going to coincide with the contracts of Brunson, of the Dante DiVincenzo's, of Josh Hart. You know, these guys are here and embedded, and also these rookies. They're on 3 years. Well, this Pacome Dadier probably has 3 years. I don't know what I think Kolek has 3 years. They will give him a 3-year deal because he's got the most expensive deal in NBA history as a second rounder. Yeah. So these guys are here to stay, and the style of basketball is probably going to be what we use as a template moving forward when bringing anyone in. So the Knicks are in very good position. I mean, if people didn't believe that, just watch. Now you're starting to see what the plan is. They don't tell you what the plan is. Clearly, everybody wants Leon Rose to open his mouth, but I don't give a damn. He don't got to open it as long as he keeps winning.
I don't care.
I don't care. I don't care what his favorite cereal is or what his astrological sign is. I could care less. The only thing I care about is throwing up more W's than Wu-Tang. I want wins and a championship. I could care less what he does in his private life. I could care less.
Okay, hold on. I've got to look this up.
All right.
Oh, they don't even give his birthday. I can't even give you his astrological sign.
Oh, he's a Capricorn. I can tell you that. He's a Cap.
No, I thought you were talking about Leon Rose.
Oh, Leon. He got to be a lion. I mean,
Thibodeau's a Capricorn, definitely.
Yeah. Thibodeau's a Capricorn. I'm a Cap, so I know he is. My mom got the same birthday or around the same. It's funny, but the personality-wise, I mean, I don't know. Leon can do what the hell he wants to do. Like I understand, like when this is the training we've had as Knicks fans, you know, the abuse, we talk about it all the time. You know, you're waiting for the next shoe to drop, like, oh, well, they should be talking to us. I never cared in fact, I hope they shut up because when they were talking, they were lying through their teeth. They really had no plan. You heard what was worse than seeing Scott Perry and Meek Mills, I call him. See Meek Mills, they came out in the middle of that press conference, like, with David Fizdale. That was the messiest. Nobody wants to see that in New York.
Well, I'm a results man.
It's just the results. If we're winning, I don't care if Dolan's at his spear spinning on his back like he's breakdancing. I can care less about any of that because if we're worried about that, then we're not winning. See, that's what people are missing. If we're worried about what they're saying and what they're doing, then we're not winning because that's the only reason you were concentrating. So the Knicks are winning. That's all that matters to me. But let's talk about what we said about Tyler. There's been talks about him probably being the backup. So Ian Begley came out and stated that at one point he believed that there was going to be some jockeying for the position, basically. I'm just kind of paraphrasing it. And then he must have gotten different intel that alerted him that no. Don't tell people about that Tyler Kolek is basically competing to get a position, that he is probably going to be the actual backup to the Knicks, which made this thing here a little weird for New York Knicks fans because we're talking about Campaign, welcome. I did it that way because I'm saying
with his funky ass jumper.
yeah, that jump is ugly. And
He hits it though.
He's a lefty, but it does go in. But he's a lefty like me, and that thing looks like it's out of a damn alien movie. I was like, I don't know. Is that when the alien popped out the stomach and the arm? I have no idea what the hell that is. But it does
hit that a lot in that Philly series.
Yeah. No, he can ball though. I'm not the campaign. Welcome to New York, but I'm not dissing because he can. He can hoop. In fact, it was funny when he left Phoenix. When we were in search of finally getting a point guard after 50 years, I said, well, he wouldn't be a bad option if the Knicks picked him up because the Knicks needed someone that was, at least competent at playing the position and could score. So, shout out to Campaign. Welcome to New York. He's a good player. It's not like he's busted, but he does add a conflict to what we've always wondered, like, why now? Why are you bringing in this guy? Because you're basically telling him that Kolick is going to get the job as the backup, which is rightfully so. You're paying him more money than you're actually paying Campaign, probably, for the life of his contract. Campaign's here on a 1-year deal. I think it's $3 million or whatever. I tend to think that this was a favor to Mikal Bridges. I just thought it was one of those. Hey, I want to be like Jalen. Can I have one of my friends, come and sleep over? This seems like a sleepover going wrong. Like, I want to play too. Well, yeah, can I have some of my friends over? I don't want to just hang out with the Nova boys. Campaign's my boy. Bring him in. Let's go chill out or whatever. He can hoop. It's not like, you're not getting a scrub. But it just builds to the dynamic that we as Knicks fans are curious as to. There's more pressing needs, clearly. The 5 is the pressing need for most Knicks fans. Our nervous bubble guts come from knowing Mitchell Robinson. Like I said, 2 things happen in December. Santa Claus, and he's going to get injured. We know what's going to happen in that route. So, I don't know. What did you think when you first heard that they're adding this guy to the team?
Well, I like the move.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Tyler Kolick goes with that, he brings something that we don't have on the team. So I'm not surprised that they're talking about him being a backup point because he's the only one that's a natural distributor. That is really ingrained in his DNA and that's who he is as a player. I mean, Randall will pile up assists, but he's just hitting the open man out of the double team. And I think, the same thing with Brunson.
Mm-hmm.
Kolick's a real point guard. Campaign, I don't know that he's a real point guard either, necessarily. I've seen him play. I've seen him play for years, and I've never seen a distributor necessarily with him. He can put the ball in the hole. I think the Knicks looked at what happened last year and what happens when guys start getting eaten up with injuries and everything like that. And they looked at it and said, you know what, we can get a capable guy that really kind of hurt us on a couple of games in the postseason for $3 million. And they also mentioned that they liked his playoff experience because he's played a bunch of playoff games. Mm-hmm. So, having more bullets in the gun is a good thing, but I was not surprised about the Kolick comment because, again, he's got a lot of horses, man. I mean, he could really make that offense hum. But what does that mean for Deuce McBride is what I'm going to kick back to you. What does that mean for Deuce McBride? Where does he fit?
Well, this becomes even more interesting because we're going to talk about this guy because, we've heard about them talking about Deuce. We hear that they are saying that he's not a point guard, that they want him to play off the ball. But what we've done is we've accumulated a glut of...
He's a third string off the ball guy then.
Yeah, because I think the dynamic that most people, they go to Deuce and they don't realize who's going to the bench in the starting lineup. Who's going to the bench now is Josh Hart, another guy who works with the ball in his hand. He's like he's not a distributor, but we don't know what he does. We don't know what Josh Hart does. We just know he wins. Yeah, he wins. He does something on the court. It looks like a maniac running around, but damn, it wins. Be a maniac like an 80s rock, pop song or something. He could be on the run. I'm doing flash dance as far as I'm concerned because He does something great. We just have not identified what it is yet. But when you look at him, you look at a guy like also Dante DiVincenzo, combo type guard. He's the kind of guard that Deuce McBride kind of is. Coming in, going to knock down shots. I'm going to defend. So we're starting to see a lot of redundancy at the combo position or the small guy position, I would say, for a guard or a small forward if you're doing a small lineup. But Josh Hart, the pecking order is going to be Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo. Now you're saying Tyler Kolek is now dispelling Brunson as the distributor probably with all those different lineups. And once they play with Tyler, they're not going to play. Not no offense to Deuce. But Deuce becomes less of a need if you play with a guy like Tyler, because now those guys are going to love playing with him because he's just going to pass the ball. He's not coming in looking to shoot. He's going to pass the damn ball, and they're going to get a lot of buckets out of just him playing that way. So it's like now you brought in campaign. Where is there a need for a Deuce McBride? And I love Deuce. I think he's one of the few players we've ever developed. You brought that up before, is Deuce McBride. But where does this make him? Where does this fit? Does he become a tradable player?
I said during the season he was one of our more tradable assets because of his contract.
He is. Well, to give the backstory on this ticker, is the belief that the Knicks have. Well, it's not even belief. They've reported. I think Bagley reported they have checked in on a Clint Capella. Clint Capella's 32 years of age. He's also had injury history. We know that the Knicks don't really have a player unless they do Mitchell Robinson kind of deal with a trade exception. They have access to get him. We didn't talk about this guy, but Precious Achiuwa is still out there. He's unsigned. We don't know what's really happening with him. We keep hearing that he's in contact with the Knicks still. He is not signed, although Begley has reported several times that, playoff teams are interested in him. Would this be the move that the Knicks make in signing, say, a Precious Achiuwa, who probably fits the timeline of what Atlanta's trying to do, whatever it is they're trying to do? I haven't figured that out either. Whatever they're trying to do in Atlanta.
That's the injury.
Yeah, could this be the move in which a guy like McBride and a re-signed Precious Achiuwa go in a package for a Clint Capella? Not that I'm agreeing to that. I'm just saying, what are your thoughts if that is the thinking of the Knicks, that package a McBride with a Precious Achiuwa to go seek that backup five, or maybe start?
That only gets you halfway there. Because if you're thinking less than halfway there, because if you're thinking about it, the Precious Achiuwa contract, if we resign him, is probably going to be for that $5 million exception because we're under the cap. McBride's making about $3 million. Capella makes $20 million. So, I mean, if you were trading Mitchell Robinson and Precious Achiuwa over for Clint Capella, yeah, the finances work then.
Mm-hmm.
But does the trade make sense? I don't know that it does. Clint Capella's a good player, I mean, he really hurt us in the Atlanta series a couple of years ago. I mean, He cleans the glass, man. He does a lot of things effectively. He's getting a little bit older, like you mentioned. He's 30 years old. He's still up there. He's not somebody you're going to re-sign. But you got to include Mitchell Robinson in that package, or the money doesn't make sense. We can't just take salary.
Yep.
So unless it's part of a larger Julius trade, which I don't like him as a piece in that trade. So I don't know. I think maybe that this is being overstated a little bit. I think maybe they made a call. You think we can kind of work something out. That doesn't mean that there was like serious talks that were going on about this. It's probably something that was just a due diligence that got leaked, because that's a complicated trade. I mean, would you consider something like a Precious Achiuwa and a Mitch for Clint Capella?
Not for me. I mean, if I'm going to pair Mitch with Precious, it's going to be for a guy like Durham. It's not going to be for It's not going to be for an older guy who may be an older guy. A guy who gives us the same problems we got with Mitch, where you might see an injury come about, and now all of a sudden your plan B and plan A are completely out the window because now you're giving up a 2-for-1.
And again, no backup and no salary flexibility to sign somebody.
I don't. I mean, I like Capella has always been an absolute lob threat. Clearly, he cleaned our glass in that Atlanta series. You're completely correct.
Sure did.
I don't know if I always like him back when we think about like how Hartenstein came here. Hartenstein was a classic backup. Thibodeau tends to can find a guy and make them into like become the next Hakeem Olajuwon on our team. As far as with the 5, how the position is played, you're going to get numbers. You're going to get usually the blocks are not good, but you're going to see the offensive rebounding.
Offensive rebounds come in the system. Yeah,
that's
the sole responsibility of the position on offense. They're not a functional part of the offense other than hang around the basket and rebound.
Yep. So the thing is, can you get a cheaper option? Like, I'm for keeping Precious. I don't see why it's the worst case scenario. I just think that what the worst case scenario is he a backup? I mean, I know Eric had pointed out that the statistics show that he did good at the 5. I just like having more height at the 5.
You don't get the rim protection.
Yeah, you're not getting the rim protection. You want somebody there that's durable and that's someone who's lengthy. I think the Knicks have always been too short of a team. That's something we saw. When your best players are like the shortest player on the team, and one of the shortest players in the leagues, I think you still got to compensate and have height somewhere in the different positions. Julius is not short, but he still doesn't have a lot of height. He's built differently. He's not a lanky, basketball player. I think the Knicks need to get younger at that position, and they do need to have somebody with more height. If I'm making a trade, it would be for Duren. If I'm going to go that route of saying I'm packaging Mitch, I would never do Mitch for Capella. I just find it to be redundant, and then you're adding another asset to it. I watch Kessler. I mean, he's good. I don't pay for Kessler either.
He rebounds and he blocks shots, but he doesn't set picks well. And with a Jalen Brunson fueled offense, you have to set a pick.
You got to set
picks. I really agree with you. Jalen Duren, I think, would be an excellent, excellent way to go because we can't afford to be patient with this, and I'll tell you why. Like we were saying, the question is coming up with teams like, do we really want to pay this guy?
Mm-hmm.
He's coming off of his rookie contract. Do we really want to pay this guy?
Yeah.
That's how guys like Jalen Duren become available.
You're right.
So.
Well, we're going to see some casualties of war because when you look at even a guy like, not that he's some stellar star, but the name escapes me now, but Kennard. Kennard is a free agent.
Kennard, yeah.
On any other year, you're picking that guy up immediately because he can shoot. He's a free agent right now. Nobody's picking him up. So that's letting you know the casualties of these aprons that are coming up. Teams are like, well, even if you're a great shooter, you're not worth me going over the cap for or the apron.
I've been saying this got snuck past the Players Association. I think they are going to come to dread these aprons, and I think it's really going to cause a problem for a lot of them. There are certain guys that are going to get paid whatever they want, and there's some really, really skilled, talented players going, where's my money? And it's not there. And I think you saw that with Gary Trent Jr.
Yeah.
I mean, not that he's a top flight player, but his market was originally around $25 million a year they were talking about. He'll be lucky if he gets a quarter of that at this point.
I think he signed for was it a $5 million? Did he do them? It was something because he's on Milwaukee, I believe. It was something.
Yeah, it's Milwaukee.
It was something is a 1-year deal, and it was not huge.
Yeah.
And in any other year, those guys are on at least your 5th or 6th spot on your bench. From a talent perspective, Gary Trent can play. He's a baller. It's not like he sucks. It's not like Kennard sucks. These are decent NBA players and pros
that have done it consistently over a number of years.
Yeah. It's definitely a different animal. So, to piggyback on what you're saying, the Duren thing could be very possible because you're going to find teams saying he's not worth me paying that much for him. what kind of deal can you give me for future assets that we can build on? Because we know Detroit's not going anywhere, except home. I mean, they might go home, but they're not going anywhere in the playoffs. Albeit they've always had talent. It's just something rotten in Detroit where they cannot get off. They can't do it.
That's a place where you'd rub 2 quarters together and wind up with 35 cents. Something wrong in the equation over there.
Fiction or inflation?
There's something going on, man. But I get the feeling that they have a plan because they had that $5 million slot in the hole, which could have got you a Mo Bamba or James Wiseman or some of these other centers that kind of went down. Mm-hmm. And granted, they're not maybe the most professionally gifted or oriented, but you put them in the right culture and, you can get something out of them. But they didn't jump on any of that. And it just feels like, and those guys would have brought a lot of what we need out of that position.
Yeah.
I just feel like they're waiting on something. I just feel like they have limited cards left to play, and they're just going to sit and wait until the right thing comes along.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I mean, when you look at it, they've been 10 steps ahead of everyone, including the media, in any way they operate. Because everybody's always speculated what the Knicks are going to do. What we heard the whole time. There's no way in Helena that the Knicks will ever get Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges is a Knick. What we said before that, there's no way in hell they get OG Anunoby after they're suing Toronto. Like, they got OG Anunoby. And the Knicks are smart.
And the funny thing is, after all the pining for Donovan Mitchell, Mikal Bridges is probably a better get for this team than Donovan Mitchell.
Absolutely. If you're going to trade, Donovan Mitchell makes somewhat sense if you are a team in the Knicks position where they didn't have a Brunson. They may had only Julius. And you're saying, well, let's try to put somebody in here who's a star. They can make Julius the second-tier star on a squad. I still don't think it would have worked. I've watched him play in Utah, and I was one of those people like, I would never trade that many assets for him. Because it's not it's a mentality thing. It's like when you see guys come and they're not winning with better talent, why would you want to trade for them? If you're not winning with better talent, you never trade the whole horse and carriage for that dude to come in and be the center of your team because he's had a better team and he couldn't do
Carmelo Anthony.
This is why I wasn't big on Melo.
Carmelo Anthony.
People took it as Melo slander, but it's like if you're not making your team better, you're not going to the promised land with better because those Denver teams were stacked.
Yeah, they were.
I had an argument with someone about that. And I'm like, well, damn, maybe I need to go return my eyes to the optometrist. Because it was like, oh, Denver wasn't that good. What the hell team are you watching? Who are you watching? They had one of the biggest front courts. Your front court was King and Martin, Marius Gamby, and Nene Hilaria.
Yeah. Who was a very good player.
You had talent. Chauncey Billups. Denver was not devoid of talent. So the question is, how much of a superstar are you? Because that's what we're getting into the land of superstar. A superstar to me has always been equivalent to 3 All-Stars, damn near, because that's the impact they have on your team. If not, then you're just a high-end All-Star, which means that, you can make the All-Star team. You're going to get some wins for your team, but you won't win them a title. See, that's the way I view Melo. Very super talented individual. Can you make your team become winners at the high level? I think he can be a product of a great team, but I don't think he could be the team in itself. That just doesn't work. But that's water under the bridge, unfortunately. But like I said, I like how our Knicks are. I wanted to bring up this one topic. We're talking about, and Melo was very good at this. I just wanted to touch on this. This is not Knick related. To the Olympic or Ozempic. I don't know what is really going on. I'm talking about USA basketball because we've had some discussions with one of our obviously our sometimes guests, Jonathan Clark. Shout out to him. But We had a little kerfuffle. Kerfuffle? Is that what it is? The word is? Whatever it is. We had a little scat back and forth about the Olympics and the fact that South Sudan was the team that came along and kind of tapped Team USA on the shoulder and was like, y'all all right? How you doing up there? We spotted you. You know, you only beat us by one. And then you hear the pundits come out and say, oh, the world is caught up. You know, the world is, a lot better. You know, then you've heard people say that this 2024 team could beat the 92 team, which, I was checking them for drugs when I heard that. But that's another story. These are the better teams that we're seeing coming to the Olympics. I'm of the mindset of this. We send out the best and supposedly the brightest and the best talent in the world. Part of why this team was assembled here the way it was with these guys was the fact that the prior FIBA team obviously lost a couple of games and they were chastised as not being the best. That team was led by our very own Jalen Brunson as point guard on that team. Josh Hart was also on that team. Mikal Bridges was on that team. So a lot of our current Knicks were on that squad. And maybe that's what I'm coming a little bit to the defense of. When seeing that those guys got chastised and said, you weren't the best, let's hold off a bit. Let me go get the real ballers, the real powerhouses, and let's go get the LeBrons and get the KDs and all these et ceteras because they're better. Could that team not have lost to Sudan the same way that the Team USA almost lost to Sudan? Absolutely. My question is this. We saw 92 romp the world. I mean, what is it, 42 points per game? We saw the second dream team come along. They dominated just as well. We started seeing a little bit of the issues come along. I mean, no shout to LeBron, but he is a two-time bronze medalist. It is what it is. We know we had the Larry Brown situation with him coaching the Olympics. Complete disaster. LeBron was young, etc. But my point is that I wonder whether or not we're looking at these teams and assuming that they're coming out with the best talent. But in the same question, I'm wondering, is it that the world has caught up or is the NBA just not that damn good anymore? This is a legit question. These are the top talents. I always tell people the top 5 players in the NBA currently are foreigners. Has the American basketball player lost his edge? Are they not the most skilled players now? Because when you look at the South Sudan team, you're talking about a country that's, is 15 years old?
And has 0 NBA players.
And they have no indoor gyms whatsoever? So they don't have any programs for basketball. Was this just a hungry team? A more skilled team? I didn't see the game, so I can't talk about the game in itself. I can only talk about what I know was the results. In a 1-point lead, to me, I stated was an embarrassment for USA basketball, given that we have all the amenities and all the supposed great talent. We have Hall of Famers on this current team that some people call the GOAT, whether it's LeBron, whether it's Steph Curry. And granted, LeBron is doing his job. He's come through in the clutch. So maybe I'm talking about the passengers on the bus that is LeBron James, because I'm wondering, what the hell are those guys doing that they almost lost to the South Sudan team? To the point that would have been arguably, and I know these are test runs, that would have been the greatest embarrassment for NBA basketball, I think, if they had actually lost that game. So I was so glad I said it wasn't a shame in it, but I think it is a shame. Those guys get paid. They make enough money that one of Steph Curry's checks probably would buy the whole program for Sudan to get indoor rooms. So I'm asking you, what was your thoughts when hearing about 1 point?
I'm going to give you a lot of thoughts.
Okay.
I won't give 35 seconds of my life to Olympic basketball. I never have. It's never been interesting to me at all. However, I will say a couple of things. When you're building an all-star team like this, you do not play with insect mentality towards your strengths, because you are blending a lot of players and a lot of egos, and you're not playing in a way that makes basketball sense. You're playing in a way right now to manage all of these egos that you have playing together, and it's like an all-star team. That's why teams like Slovenia, with a single transcendent player and some supportive players around them, tend to win games against superior talent because they are winning strategically.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, the world has caught up in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that there's a single nation in the world that has more talent than we do. We still have transcendent talents. I look at some of the people that are on the team currently right now, and I think of them in the same breath as a lot of the players that are in the 92 team. Granted, maybe a more solid team. But, yes, there are some of the most talented players in the game are foreigners right now. But there's still so much other talent. There's such a deep pool of talent. You look like guys that are coming up like Anthony Edwards and Paulo Banchero and some of these guys, and they're just magnificent talents. I think teams are playing – I think our team plays down to the mean, plays down to the level of competition. I don't think we play strategically. I don't think we play in a way that makes sense. It doesn't seem like. They're not playing to win. They're playing to manage the roster, I think, in a lot of ways. And other teams are playing strategically. Mm-hmm. They're finding the one thing that they do good, and they're jamming it down your throat. But again, this is coming from some guy that has absolutely zero experience watching Olympic basketball, because I think the idea of it is absolutely silly. To sit there and watch an American All-Star team play Moldova.
That's true, though.
That's my 2 cents.
Gotcha. No, those are like 25 cents, and no, that's pretty good sense. What you just put.
At least it ain't 35 cents.
Yeah, no, let's speak to the world has evolved, obviously. The 92 Dream Team had a huge impact on sports, and especially basketball in itself. So, a lot of kids start dreaming from that Dream Team. Dirk Nowitzki and all those guys, that impacted them wholeheartedly, to the point that they are Hall of Famers, probably due to the fact that they saw or got a glimpse of that great squad. Maybe one of the best teams ever put together in sports history, literally. I mean, when you think about it, the magnitude of the personalities and the accolades and all the et ceteras, you had some legends that decided to sacrifice their games for the betterment of their country. And it branded basketball in general. I mean, it did wonders. David Stern, shout out to him, rest in peace, but globalize the game in such a unique way when you think about getting those guys to commit to, and especially Michael Jordan to commit to actually playing over there. Shout out to Isaiah Thomas. I know he's mad, but anyway, can't throw that out there. But needless to say, I just look at it that when you talk about putting together, and I think that's the key thing, like you were saying about these guys are putting together supposedly the best talent. I think that's the mock. What I'm mocking about when they said the best talent, no, you put together the best team. Teamwork matters. Teamwork makes the dream work, literally. A lot of times they're throwing these guys out there and they did the whole celebration. They just got their new jerseys and they're taking pictures in these photo ops. It's like, can you play basketball? We've heard Devin Booker say, don't guard me in practice or during pickup games because I don't want to be guarded by 2 people. Well, guess what? That's part of basketball. You do get guarded by 2 people generally, no matter when you're playing, because you're that great. Is what do you do once they take away? That's what obviously basketball is about. What do you do when they take away what you're great at doing? That's what makes you a tremendous basketball player. Not what you're great at. What do you do when they take it away? What are you capable of becoming? And I look at them to have to rely on, and like I said, LeBron James is a special talent. He's always been a special talent. It's not a knock on him. GOAT argument up for debate, depending on your preference. My thing is this: I think it's very strange that a guy at his age is the one that's helping you win games because somebody's unwilling to sacrifice something in their games to make this whole thing fit. Because that's what you're really seeing. A guy at 40-something years old is like, oh, well, let me tell y'all how to win by sacrificing. And really, he's not sacrificing. He's doing what he's always done. He's just driving the ball, and nobody wants to stand in front of him. It's really what it comes down to with a lot of his games. And he's hit some pretty good shots also. So I don't want to belittle it like that. But it just tells the NBA and the young guys coming up that this is not AAU basketball anymore. You need to start getting in the gym and work on your skill set and work on your fundamentals of your defense. Because the one thing I had told Eric, and this almost came true, when he told me that they barely won, because that's how I received the news. I told him, I said, the team that can shoot threes is going to beat the Team USA, is what I told him. So I said, what was their percentage? And he laughed. He said, 42% from three. I'm like, that's the team that will overthrow them. I thought it was France that would do it. But I said, the team that can actually lock in and shoot over a high percentage of threes and rebound the glass, France could do both of those things. I said, that would be the team you need to worry about the U.S. losing to. Canada might have been, but they're small. They're mid-range team. That's not going to win it. But a team that can reel off a lot of threes, they have a great shot. And we saw that with South Sudan. Shout out to them. They did a great job. It shows about hard effort and work ethic on top of that. And a bunch of hungry people looking for an opportunity. And maybe that's what they're missing in this league, is finding guys that have the same hunger to understand what it takes to win. Commitment to your teammates, trusting your teammates, putting all our effort on the floor when it comes time to play. A lot of things we're seeing Joel Embiid, he's trying to fake his injuries. He's trying to flop in the middle of the Olympics. These are bad things and bad cosmetic things for NBA basketball. And maybe it's time, much like how the league, the world has grown up, I think it's time for the league to grow up. The NBA league needs to grow up and start playing basketball and hoop like you're supposed to be hooping, instead of hooping like you're trying to be in the theater. And I think that's what we experienced. Hopefully it's a wake-up call, because the curtain call almost happened. So we'll see what happens moving forward. But anyway, this was a Knicks show. Anything you want to talk about as far as the Knicks moving forward? Anything you foresee? Or anything you got a wish list before we wrap it up?
No, it seems like we're pretty much tied up until things start revving again right before the season. We covered free agency, we covered the signings, we covered summer league.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a good time for a vacation until things start ramping up or something happens.
Yeah. This was definitely a twisty tie, kind of the summer for us as a All Knicked Up podcast. Obviously, if something breaks new, we're going to break it with you. But, we've had a very successful year. We're only 3 months away from training camp. It sounds crazy. It's going to fly by real fast. But
that's what happens when your team makes the playoffs and goes through. We're still a little unaccustomed to that.
That's true, because when the draft came up, I had no idea if they were even in the draft. I was like, wait, they made drafts happen? I didn't even.
Yep.
Every other year, I'm like glued to it, but this is the reward for success, and thank God we are finally feeling like we're heading down the right road. But all things come to an end, as we know, and we are going to conclude what has been the 2023-2024 season. We're trying to. It's a twisty tie up this summer. This was the last game that we'll see probably from the Knicks, unless we get some footage of Mitchell Robinson doing his and one tape tour. But generally, what we've seen is we've heard Julius Randle is back in the gym, and that there's footage I've not seen yet, but he looks like he's doing pretty good from what they say. He doesn't show any ill effects of the shoulder injury. The other guys are just doing podcasts and seem like they're on breaks and doing their media tours, their personal media tours. But needless to say, I think we're in a great position moving forward. Hopefully these 3 months are, because I'm not a anything else fan. I'm a Yankee fan, but I don't think they're working out too good. But I'm a baseball fan. But basketball is everything. So hopefully this 3 months does fly by. Not about life, but time to get back and try to win this damn chip again. So, Joe, tell them where they can find you during the meantime of our little bit of siesta here.
I know, right? First of all, it was a great season, and it was really, really fun doing this over the entire season. It's been a pleasure doing this with you and Eric.
Thank you.
Folks, you can find me on X at Upstate Joe, AKU for All Knicked Up. You can find me on the fan page. And I'm sure, like I said, we're pretty much at the end of the off-season activities, but if something comes up, I'm sure you're going to hear from us.
Very good, very good. And you can always find me at the All Knicked Up page. You can also find me at Genius Scribble on That's Gonna Give It To You channel. I don't do much on that. That's all Eric. He likes being in the swamps. This is what he does. He likes being in him, and shout out to Craig. They like being in the swamps. I don't like being in those swamps, but they navigate very well through it. But you can always check me out on that. Come next season, I'm going to definitely get the IG page more active, our Instagram page. I have created one, just not as active as it needs to be, but we'll work on that. And as far as anything else, any updates, make sure you check out the All Knicked Up fan page on Facebook. That's where we try to, give you any latest information, any updates. If there is going to be a future show at some point and we find out new information, we'll let you know. Other than that, I just want to thank everybody who has been supporting us throughout. Shout out to Coach. You've been there from day one.
Yeah, seriously, Coach. We appreciate you.
We definitely love you, brother. Very good having you on. And big up to Stacy. She's always on here too. So we got
Thank you, Stacy.
We got some loyal followers. The wife, the families, all about everybody. I don't know where Eric is. I told you, I think he's over in Europe, like you said, scouting. But shout out to Craig, John, all you guys, Jonathan Clark, thanks for coming on to the show as well. And so let's go Knicks, man. Let's hope that we find a 5, and then we'll be 3 months in, and then we'll competing for a championship. That's all it's about. So we're going to conclude it tonight. That's my boy Joe, Big Cuff. You know how he do, upstate. And I'm Ty. And you guys make sure you have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon. Be good.